Through the Gates is produced under the support of the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management to enhance, promote, and defend the North American model of wildlife conservation and responsible wildlife management. That's our mission. We're engaged in fighting at every level so that wildlife management remains science-based and conservation continues to work for our wildlife. To learn more and join the movement, visit SaveTheHuntColorado.com. The North American model of wildlife conservation is the greatest conservation model in the world. It's a success story that should be shared and celebrated because everybody is a part of it. Well, we got a special update episode of Through the Gates to Save the Hunt, and today we've got, in the middle of the legislative session, we've got Adam Nelson with the Salida Gunshop. Adam is a part owner of Salida Gunshop. I guess your partner's name is Josiah.
Yep.
And Adam and Josiah and the Salida Gunshop have been big supporters of the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. While we've been friends for a couple of years, they got really involved in the Initiative 91 or Proposition 127 campaign, and we're great big supporters on helping us fundraise and get us some product, acquiring a product to be able to have some raffles and fundraisers and different things. You guys have jumped all in on that whole deal, and you got to see a victory out of it. But give us a little bit of an introduction, who you are, where you come from, background, what you do for Salida Gunshop, and then we'll get into the logistics of what the gun shop does. Then we're going to talk about some politics and how you guys are being adversely affected.
All right, Dan. So I'm Adam from Salida Gunshop, the co-owner of Salida Gunshop. Business partner, good friend for quite some time was Josiah. He's a majority owner. Let's see. I originally come from the state we don't speak of.
which maybe we're becoming.
Yeah, we're kind of headed that way. My background is I worked 17 years as a paramedic, full-time, outside the city of Los Angeles, and then started hunting, I would say, early 20s, mid-20s. Had a friend, big duck hunter, and then I just turned on the fire and got the bug, and then started big game hunting in Colorado. Once I started doing that and I was traveling out to Colorado, I just decided one time coming out here, I was like, the people out here, the community, everything about Colorado just said, I have to be there. I have to be here. I had my late aunt and uncle that lived in Buena Vista. I had visited them early on in life and thought, that seems like a good place to move to. But in life, you kind of have to make your moves accordingly to what you can feasibly do. So what I did was packed a trailer and made a promise to myself that I would be in Colorado in a certain amount of time. Moved out here in early 2012. Moved jobs, started working as a paramedic in Colorado Springs. And then I moved to where I live now in Chaffee County, rural Colorado, 2016. A lot happened between that time, just in general in Colorado. Really was focused in the firearms, was a customer of Salida Gunshop well before being a co-owner. I always thought it was a little place that was very interesting because it had a lot of things that not a lot of other places had, and it was kind of just a small place. Anyways, long story short, I ended up working out a deal with the previous owner and Josiah, and we had another business partner at one point in time, and became an owner in 21. And then what do I do there? Essentially, I am the buyer for Salida Gunshop, and what do I focus on is I focus on hunting and products that I believe people want. I focus on products that we can trust, companies that we can trust, companies that are behind customers and behind us to support the customer. So why did we get behind 127? I think that goes back many years in regards to why I moved here. I moved here to hunt. I moved here to have that part of my life just be the center, the focus, the epicenter of everything in my life. My wife will tell you I don't exist from the August to about January.
Yeah.
Between work and hunting seasons, it's busy. So
I used to do that. And now I play politics, and I'm not around 12 months out of the year.
yeah, you're a busier guy than I am, actually.
I'm not real smart, though, so.
I beg to differ. So really we get behind 127. Why I was all in is because I know the people that can get the products, that can support this. And maybe what I saw is that with previous workings with other 501c3s is that one of the, I would say the failure points is that they just need the connector guy, right? Yeah. They need the guy that knows the people to entice or to encourage folks to donate. One thing I would say that being on the other side of asking for donations is I understand the heartache, right? Or the like, oh, we can get it for XYZ money, and as long as you put this much in, we know you have buy-in. Knowing you prior to that, I was all in. Like I knew that if we were going to put money towards something, it's that. Supporting hunters, supporting conservation, supporting what we have going on here in Colorado, like in regards to the attack. At least that's what I feel like it is, right?
That's an assault.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember where you and I first met?
Originally?
Yeah.
Yes, I do, actually. I first met you outside of Sportsman's Warehouse
in Colorado Springs
many years ago in Colorado Springs. And I thought to myself, this guy's got something. And then I don't think we actually really connected until it was, I don't know, maybe before 91 or right before 91. There was kind of a ramp up. And I remember just saying, like, hey, what you're doing is what we want to get behind.
Yeah.
And, to your, what would I say, to your ability to talk and BS, I would say I was all behind you. There's nothing that you can't do. And I know some people that can get you the things. So that way,
I appreciate that.
We can raise money.
Well, and that brings up the deal too, the difference between what CRWM is, and although we formulated a C3 on top of the C4, we were in a C4 capacity, which some of the other organizations you were with, and I think if I recall correctly, you were with like Ducks Unlimited at the time was that a paid position or volunteer?
Just volunteer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, but C3s have a difficult time engaging in political advocacy.
Absolutely.
They do fabulous jobs at conservation.
100%.
But they're more membership and organizationally driven as they are to a cause when it comes to the fight.
Yep.
They do fabulous jobs on conservation. I would never knock them in any way, shape, or form. DU, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Rocky Mountain Bighorn Society, you just go down the list of all the acronym groups. But when we formulated CRWM, we did so with the intent to create that political advocacy component, and by having the lobbyist at the Colorado State Capitol was first and foremost. But we've been playing this game for the better part of 20 some odd years. But we formulated in 2016-17. That being said, to try, even though we had a great relationship with all those C3 organizations and we were fighting at different levels, to get them to understand the need and the necessity and how imperative it was for their participation on like a ballot initiative.
Yeah.
Nobody got involved in Proposition 114 to speak of. I mean, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation did, but holistically and collectively, the organizations didn't. And so when we fought on Senate Bill 31 in 2022, we formulated this coalition called the Colorado Wildlife Conservation Project. And that's about 26 different organizations and some general business members. But even that is a coalition of all these other entities combined. So they still don't have the teeth, so to speak.
Yeah.
To find what you guys were willing to do for us, leading the charge specifically on what became Proposition 127, it not only elevated our position, but it showed buy-in from many other organizations and entities about we need to support these type of efforts, because without this sort of grassroots support, how are they going to continually fund what they need to fund to do the fight, which these other organizations can't do?
Right.
When you went to your distributors, your manufacturers, how did you sell them on something that was politically driven from a ballot perspective to get them to say, okay, we're gonna get all in?
Just like what you would run into in regards to a C3, we're going to be the head person. We'll be the chopping block person. So what they would do is we take it in, we'll pay for it, and then we donate it to you. So maybe it's discounted, but there's still monies being spent from Salida Gunshop for this product to get over. So there's a lot of companies that don't want this, right? They could, like, Salida Gunshop can be running or heading it with CRWM, but not that company, right? And they'd be okay with a little bit of marketing-ish, is what I would say. But
yeah, when you put a name like Swarovski or Gunworks on something for a small organization that is leading the charge on behalf of a lot of people and a lot of cause and a lot of entities, it elevates and enhances your position to where people are like, well, how did you get them? And I think that the partnership that was built between Salida Gunshop and CRWM helped solidify those efforts from some of these other entities to the point to where not only did the customer see value, that maybe the businesses, even though maybe they didn't make money off of it, the return on investment was profitable because they were supporting the cause, which then in turn, a lot of the customer base might have said, oh, holy crap, these guys are getting involved.
Right.
Do you see something that we've started to fill a gap on over the course of the last 2 years on some of this stuff?
You know, I would hope so. The big thing that I would, like to impress upon your audience, or just an audience in general, is look at who's supporting these movements, right? Like, it's not always, one, we carry good products, right?
You carry really good products.
The two that you talked about, we're fairly sizable dealers for both Gunworks and Swarovski. I think Gunworks wise, we're a gold dealer, which is it's pretty sizable for them. And then also Swarovski, I would say for a single door place, we do pretty well.
Yeah.
In regards to, we have a lot of support in that realm. But what I was going to say is that the products that people use, they should look at where those companies are putting dollars towards what actual movements, I guess you could say.
Could you go to, I just went to an Elk Foundation banquet on Saturday night. I don't need any more RMEF stuff in my house. I don't need RMEF crock pots, and I don't need RMEF salt and pepper shakers, and I don't need RMEF chairs, and I don't need RMEF. I mean, there's, everything is RMEF, which is great for the brand.
Yes.
But me as a personal individual, my wife's like, well, I'd like to have that, but I don't really care for the RMEF logo on it. And those are cookie cutter. You've helped us, as have many other companies, not do the cookie cutter stuff. But I understand, too, we don't have 200 chapters. We're a single organization trying to do a single thing.
The funny thing you say that, because the same time you're at Pueblo, I was in the Chaffee County RMEF banquet, and I can get along the same in regards to I have access to a lot of like cool things, right? Like fun stuff. We get to go test stuff, go use stuff. I would agree with you. There were some things there that I was like, wow, that's really cool, but I don't. My wife doesn't want a big elk on the wall painting or
that's got their
photo that has the RMEF. I just, and it, again, nothing against anybody. And it goes along the same lines, I would say, with at one point in time, our house had probably a ton of Ducks Unlimited stuff, but same thing. We donated to RMEF for locally a significant portion of the firearms that they had. And really what that came down to is local support. Right? Community.
Right.
Supporting, everybody, right? The outfitters, the local hunters, the local families, even just the local banquet, so we can get the word out there. Like, people need to support something more than CPW and a tag.
It's getting to the point to where I think some of the bigger entities, some of the bigger organizations are starting to acknowledge. They've always realized, but they haven't had that model that's been total outreach to a target audience that is not consumptive use or that is not beneficial to that particular organization. Ducks Unlimited does great, but the majority of the Ducks Unlimited members are duck hunters or waterfowl hunters. Same with RMEF, same with wild sheep. There again, go back through the acronyms. When you talk about the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, we have everybody.
It's an eclectic group of people.
You come to our banquet August 9th at Outdoorsman Days in Florence, Colorado, and you will see duck hunters and elk hunters and bow hunters and trappers and houndsmen and non-hunters and ranchers. Now, I'm not saying that none of those attend any of this other stuff, but they're going because they support the elk side of it, or they go and support the bow hunting side of it, which, you look at, we were at the SCI banquet, the Colorado chapter of SCI, the week before. At the same time, you've got the Colorado Bow Hunters banquet going on, and we were trying to cover both bases. People go to the bow hunters banquet because they probably support the bow hunting side of it, but they're bow hunters. The majority of them are bow hunters. They're archery guys. That's not a knock, but what we created through the campaign was this holistic balance of trying to get everybody to understand that I'm a sportsman, and under the sportsman umbrella, I can be any one of those other acronym groups, or I could just turn around and support the cause for the sake of supporting the cause.
I would love to see that more, honestly. I think that's one of the things that, like, in regards to how you speak on it, in regards to supporting the cause in regards to sportsmen and sportswomen, that's super important. And honestly, like, I'm the kind of person that is a live and let live, right? Do what you want to do. You want to go hunting with a bow, muzzleloader, rifle. You want, what kind of rifle, I don't care if it's a $200 pass down or $15,000 custom.
Doesn't matter.
Hey, come on in. We're here to support.
So speaking of that, go back and tell us exactly what Salida Gunshop has and offers from from if a guy walks into the door, you've got services, you've got classes, you've got product, you've got education.
The big thing that I would talk about, or I would say the most commonly quoted new customer line is holy crap, you guys have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We have everything. So really our major focus, Salida Gunshop, just in general, is community education and awareness, right? So when you walk into our gun shop, you're going to get greeted. You're going to get somebody who has a knowledge basis that's more than a guy that's just trying to sell you something, right? We're not just trying to sell people products. One, the products that we carry are the things that we trust, like I said.
Quality stuff.
Quality stuff. I mean, we've worked really hard to make sure that's the case. Not going to have everything, but we have a lot of things in regards to many different firearms manufacturers, many different optics manufacturers, reloading gear, everything you could think of in that realm.
Safes.
We have safes, we have clothing, we have everything down to the cleaning products, ammo. Gunsmithing. Yeah, we got gunsmithing. Suppressors. We do a lot in the NFA realm. So the National Firearms Act.
And you can walk them through right from the beginning.
Absolutely. And that's been kind of a hot, I would say, hot thing right now, because turnaround times on suppressors are so much faster.
It's like 3 days or something.
Yeah, I've been buying suppressors for close to 10 years now. And what I would say is you would buy a product 10 years ago and you would get it a year later. And then that company had already come out with the new product. Now, let's say you're going to go on a prairie dog hunt and you want a suppressed 17 HMR and all the good. You can buy the rifle, you can buy the suppressor, and you can pick them up after your 72-hour wait. Sometimes.
Most of the time, it's that quick now, unless you do a trust.
No, so the trust thing is kind of interesting. It's all dependent on a lot of different things. I'd like to say we use a gentleman out of Colorado Springs, James Cook, a lawyer, and he builds his trust appropriately. What I would say is that the trust the fastest one that I've seen is 7 days on a trust. The goal of the ATF, at least what we've been told, is 90 days. To see somebody crest the 30 to 60 days, kind of abnormal. I'm an abnormal guy, so I'm usually day 89 on a trust.
But it's done on a general purpose, which is separate than a trust. That's expedited to the point to where it's almost light speed compared to what it used to be.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, honestly. Electronic fingerprints, electronic tax stamps, electronic everything. I mean, the work that some companies in the industry have done to work with ATF to move that faster is just unbelievable.
Really?
And amazing. And it's been proven time and time again that really what it came down to was the process was not appropriate for what they needed to accomplish. We always said long time ago is if they privatized tax stamps, you'd get it in 12 hours.
Yeah. And so while the suppressors are not something that every place deals in,
no,
it's becoming more frequent.
Yeah.
Because it's a niche in the market to where a lot of people are trying to jump on the bandwagon.
Absolutely. I think once one it's something I tell everybody. Once you get one,
you want more.
Yeah,
I got to get another one for me anyway. So
but really, at the end of the day, what I would say is I'm 40. I went to an audiologist, and he's like, "Man, you need hearing aids." My wife could have told you that a long time ago. But what I would say is that suppressors assist in the fact of keeping firearms hearing safe Everywhere else in the world, they're kind of like a requirement. For some reason, we treat them differently here. There's also a lack of understanding, of suppressors in regards to what they accomplish.
It's not like on television.
No,
for the most part.
No, it's not. I mean, your common suppressors, right, are bringing your decibels down to in the 140s, 130s, good ones. Everybody has a different use case for what they want a suppressor for or why. A lot of people, when they wear over the ear, like hearing protection, doesn't allow them to get a great cheek well on the gun. So they don't like that, and it pushes up and it offsets. So it's nice for some people. They just use it for that reason. Hunting wise, I don't know about you, but I've been rung several times, by whatever reason, whether that's duck hunting or whether that's rifle hunting, which is significant, and that's permanent hearing loss.
Yeah.
Immediately. You're not getting that back. So it's nice to be able to hunt with a suppressor in Colorado. A lot of people think it's like taboo.
Yeah.
Right? It's not. It literally, the whole point of it is so you don't lose your hearing.
And at the same time, I mean, you talked about getting down to the 130s or 140s as far as decibels.
Yeah.
I mean, if you started, what would you typically start out at if you're getting down to that level?
I think that like commonly is like 180.
Yeah. So you're dropping at 40 decibels.
Yep.
But it's not like it's a silencer. People say, "Oh, you got a silencer." No, it's not. It's not a silencer. Is there such thing as a silencer?
No, at least not available to the commercial market.
Yeah. So it's not like you see on television where or in a movie where somebody walks up and anybody in the living room doesn't hear anything that's going on in the bedroom.
No. A big thing is I'm gonna get fried for this. The American Suppressor Association. I forget their name. They do a lot of work on all of this in regards to getting tax stamps and all that stuff faster and working with ATF. They have like a actual chart. It's funny, like your vacuum is as loud as a silencer, So it's not whisper quiet.
Yeah.
But it's amazing the first time you get one because you're like, oh, this is way more tolerable. They're great for like, I don't know, the big thing I see is like new shooters. It takes that one component out of it to make them not afraid of the firearm itself, right?
And do they become part of a recoil reducing component too?
Yeah, and some companies have really focused on the recoil reducing part of it. A big I would say misconception is that silencers, suppressors, whatever terminology you want to use, is that they reduce the recoil, like people say like 30%. A really good break, 60%.
Yeah.
Now there's some companies, Thunder Beast, they have a can that is a reduced recoil can. So it does both. It only reduces the sound, but it also mitigates recoil. And I think they right there in the 60%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's significant. I've been shooting a couple of their cans for a while now, and it's pretty amazing.
Just because you have access for a testing component.
Yeah.
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 It's like, what would you use? Well, which one do I have?
Yeah. Honestly, like I think at the end of the day, the big thing I would say is Josiah and I both kind of came to this conclusion. Something is better than nothing. There's different price points for everybody.
Right.
There's different use cases for everybody. But yeah, they're one. I mean, I don't know. If I could say, I'm addicted to them. I love them. I mean, when I choose a rifle, there's a couple things. It's the rifle, the optic, and the suppressor, and they're all going to kind of live together.
And you try not to switch them back and forth.
I try not to. It's not that I don't. With certain companies and certain things, certain tolerances, doesn't offset zero. But I try to leave them on the rifle that I'm using. At the end of the day, it's a first world problem, right? Hey, I'm just going to take this one out, go shoot.
Yeah.
Then we shoot a lot. I shoot a lot.
Yeah, you shoot a lot more than the average Joe.
Yeah. I would say every Sunday, anywhere from 60 to 100 rounds at least. So, and that's the only day I have off.
Yeah, because you're self-employed.
Yeah, it's just what it is.
We had a conversation at one point with Wilmore Core with Davis Tent talking about self-employed and self-employed people, not knocking people that have jobs, but self-employed people have a different perspective a lot of the time on what time they want to accommodate for their extracurricular activities and what time they want to allow for their volunteer activities or their causes.
Yep.
And more often than not, a lot of that stuff comes back to their business side.
Oh yeah.
I know a lot of people that have a job that volunteer time that doesn't have anything to do with their job. Some business people do, but a lot of time the business people are volunteering for things that have something to do with their business because it's reciprocal. Yeah. You know, it's one hand washes the other, and I think that's part of the benefit of what you get is you get to go out and test stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at the best product and the best opportunity for the customer.
Yep.
But as you said earlier in this conversation, you don't want to sell junk.
Yeah.
You want to sell good stuff. You want to sell it because it works.
Yeah. The big thing is like I like when we're behind a product, we're behind it. We're not just bringing something in because it makes X amount of margins and does this and does that. I truly believe like if we bring in a product, there's a 100% reason behind it. I would say, a major product that we brought in the last year was Kafaru packs. A lot of that stems from me using their product many years before and saying, this for me, for my size, is a wonderful product. Bringing that product in, I want to not push it on people, but let them experience that and say, yeah, this is an unreal product. We were all in with a certain company, and one of their major dealers in the nation and in Colorado as a single door dealer. I think close to the largest dealer in Colorado, I think, if I remember hearing the numbers right. And they were not able to continue their support for the customer, and we are now don't carry their product at all.
Oh.
So, that's where we're at. If they're not going to support the customer, we're not going to carry it and continue to put it out there.
You guys do training.
We do training.
And you got an in-house shooting lane or gun range?
Yeah, so we have a 2-lane range. It's kind of a interesting range, I would say. It's a electronic. There's a paper and then an electronic projected image on it. So if you want to shoot targets or zombies or whatever, it has a hit indicator, that type of stuff. Has the paper there. If you just don't want to shoot that, you can. It's at I think 7 yards. But we do a lot of training. We do a lot of training with firearms and without. Jenna, our marketing manager and also one of our trainers for a lot of non-firearm classes. She does like awareness classes. So like,
Sean, see if we can pop that Salida Gunshop up and see it. Is there a spot on the website?
Yeah. So on the website, salidagunshop.com, you'll have under education, it'll have firearm courses, non-firearm courses. She does. That's so you can get to the safety awareness, internet safety, home and neighborhood safety type thing. And those are classes that don't include firearms. The other big one that we've run into now is concealed carry classes, so our firearms classes.
Which is becoming more and more.
More and more. I would say it's actually really significant in the last few years. We've seen a pretty large increase in regards to who's getting concealed carry and why they're getting it. But we have all NRA trained instructors, previous military people that are just, employees of our gun shop that wanted to get into the training aspect. I honestly believe there's a course for everybody, from ground level, never touch a firearm in your life, to not wanting to touch a firearm, to now I want to move to concealed carry. We have other courses, including like combat shotgun, combat pistol, those type of things. The other thing we do is something called Steel Challenge, which is Jake's gonna kill me for this. It's a Steel Challenge is essentially like 5 targets, and they do a bunch of different timed events type thing. That one's been pretty good. They just recently changed that to Saturdays in the month. I think it's the second Saturday.
So we're going to get into some conversations about what trials and tribulations gun shop owners and FFL holders in the state of Colorado have to deal with. But talking about the concealed carry side of things, there's new laws, rules, and regulations that are taking into effect on concealed carry.
Yeah. Fortunately, I think, we have a really good relationship with our local sheriff, which we just recently had a change in the sheriff. But where that goes is the requirements for concealed carry are way different than they were, right? We used to, hey, go to the local sheriff, take the safety class, and boom, get your concealed carry. And then when you went to refresh or renew your concealed carry, depending on the county, were different requirements. And now it's kind of been standardized. But the interesting thing is that we've done kind of the groundwork before. So we've always kind of held our concealed carry classes in the last few years to a certain standard. So you got your new concealed carry, which is an 8-hour course. Some of it's classroom. There's a test, a written test, and there's also a shooting test. I believe I'm probably going to misspeak on that. I think it was like 70% or 80% on the actual shooting test. And then with the one I'm concerned about, or not concerned, but I want people to know about, is if you do expire after I believe it's June 1 date, you do have to take a new updated refresher course, which is a 4-hour course, which is also update in the laws, update in the and you have to shoot. You actually have to.
So you're saying if you have to renew or if you expire.
Yes.
So let's just say hypothetically, somebody's concealed carry permit doesn't expire until January of 26. What does that person have to do? Does he have to renew prior to January of 26?
Yes.
And he has to go through the new requirements of the course and all the stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah, and I believe there's 60 days prior to is what it is. The big thing is that you need to make sure that you have vetted your instructors, which should be available on your local sheriff's website. It's actually supposed to be. That's how we've worked with our local sheriff in the Chaffee County area for setting up their website and making sure that all of our instructors are vetted.
And you have to go in the county of residency?
County of residency.
Okay.
You don't have to take the class in the county of residency, but they do have to be an approved instructor.
Okay.
So
somebody has to go to the sheriff's department, get a new application, even though they got a current permit, they're a current permit holder, 60 days in advance or 30 days in advance or whatever it is. But you go to the county sheriff, you turn around and say, I want to renew this.
Yep.
They give you the proper documentation to turn around and go get your class somewhere that you have to pay for out of pocket.
Yep.
Then you have to pass that with the specific requirements, whether it's the written test or the shooting test. Mm-hmm. And then once you do that, then it's up to the sheriff to turn around and issue that again?
Yes, sir. And the big thing that I would say is that I've heard some grumblings recently of some places that are really backed up on just concealed carry permits in general, like appointments and whatnot. So do look into that well ahead of time,
Because if it expires...
I believe there are some, not workarounds, but there are some leeway pieces. I believe, if I read it right, you were supposed to take now the 8-hour class.
If it expires.
Yeah.
So it's 4 hours if you do it beforehand for the renewal.
Yep.
But if you've never had one before, it's 8 hours.
Yep.
Okay. Boy, they're going to make you take a class to get your concealed carry, renew your concealed carry. Now they want you to do a class to turn around and acquire a semi-automatic or detachable magazine gun, which would be under Senate Bill 003 that we'll be discussing. But what's happened in the last 2 years? You've been a partial owner since 21. Since 23, 24 into 25. What's happened in the last 2 years that had just been mind-boggling for you as a store owner, a business owner, that you just sit and shake your head and bang your head against the wall?
I think one of the major ones has been the 72-hour waiting period, where so you come in to buy a firearm, you do your background check, you do your 4473, we do the background check, and then the background check, for the most part, prior to Senate Bill 003 being kind of hot and heavy, was pretty immediate.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yeah, you come in, you get your background check. It goes through CBI and what's it, NICS, and NCIS.
Yep.
And you get that done. But that was being vetted at the state and the federal level.
Yep.
So then they turn around and made it 72 hours to where...
72-hour cooling period.
Yes.
So
if you want to buy a birthday present, you have to cool down before you turn around and do that.
Yeah, and the big thing was so that was October of 23 that went into effect.
For the 72 hours.
72 hours. And it really took, I would say, a year for everybody to realize that there was a 72-hour waiting period. I think their goal was to curb or decrease violent people from being able to go in and purchase a firearm and commit their act, whether that be suicide or whatnot.
So 72 hours is a cool down.
Yep.
Which, look, I'm a federal firearms license holder.
Yep.
If we do auctions or estate sales or raffles or whatever for these fundraising things, it makes no sense to me why you need a cool down period if it's going through the check. If somebody storms in your door and wants to turn around and buy a gun because they feel threatened, they're going to figure out some way to defend themselves. But if somebody wins something at a fundraising raffle that is a 22 or a 30-06 or whatever, there is no need in any logic to have a cool down period for some of these purchases.
I think the big thing that we incurred in the first year was we were seeing anywhere between 4 and 6 people not purchasing firearms due to the 72-hour cooling period. The thing that where we kind of stand alone is we're servicing a lot of rural Colorado. So you have people driving hours on end to come to our place of business.
Yeah.
And
then they got to come back.
And it's like, what? Like,
and from a business standpoint, I mean, logistically, if they win something somewhere, they could have that firearm from a dealer then shipped to a dealer closer to their location.
Yep.
For instance, if somebody in Sterling, Colorado came to Canyon City, Colorado, won a rifle at an auction or a fundraiser, then you, or previously it would have been Pueblo Sporting Goods, who's now moved because of these gun rules and regulations, the Pueblo West Sporting Goods, they could ship that gun to Sterling. But if the guy in Sterling wants to drive to Salida Gunshop, it's a professional courtesy.
Yep.
But for them to have to turn around and have that gun that they bought to you shipped to the gun store in Sterling, maybe that guy didn't want to do that, so he's forced to come back down to you because he didn't want to cross the barrier of saying, well, why'd you go down there? Well, they got a better selection, or I like Adam better than I do you, or whatever.
Yeah.
72 hours to do this stuff the way that they've set it up and the reasons they did. It just seems like it's lunacy.
The big thing is that coming from the state that I came from, they have a 10-day cooling period, and there really isn't. I mean, personally, I haven't seen any stats or data that supports this type of rule, right? I would love to see what Colorado has seen from the 72-hour waiting period. I mean, if I'm just a general person, I do a Google search, we've seen nothing but an increase in violent crime, suicides, everything that this thing's supposed to do. I don't.
You would think that some of the legislation that we're going to talk about would dramatically affect the things that they're attempting to try to dramatically affect. And I'll use the gun show bill that's up in chambers this week.
Yeah.
So 72 hours is already in effect. So a guy comes in from some other location or in-state, sets up at a gun show. If he sells a gun, private or otherwise, and that needs to be specified. If a private guy had 9 guns, he wanted to set a table up and he wanted to get rid of some hunting knives and his accoutrements and accessories and a few guns, he has to have that gun transferred from a federal firearms licensed dealer to another. Either he does the check or he has to transfer it to another dealer to where they could transfer the firearm after the 72-hour wait. But that's not good enough.
No.
They continually want to marginalize not only the Second Amendment, but they want to bastardize the guy who's turning around and trying to do it legally, ethically, and morally. And to your point, Adam, none of the stuff that is affecting has anything to do with the crime or the suicide prevention rate whatsoever.
No, and I think what's really interesting is that there's some interesting stats that have come out, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a statistician, but that type of stuff. I could read things.
I could read things. You went to school.
I went to school. The big thing I would say is you look at the stats of actual firearms purchased from a federal firearms licensed dealer, and it's sub 1% of crime is committed in the United States
from dealers.
And then you look at it from the other aspect of gun show loopholes or whatever. It's really just a catchphrase, right? It's gotcha, I've been to a few gun shows. I would say it's all great people, just that love a certain product. It's no different than wives that love to knit or that type of thing. I think it's very similar in regards to how we as a different community of people, I guess you could say, kind of get out there and socialize.
There's a liquor store on damn near every corner.
Yeah.
There's a marijuana shop. Has any of the drunk driving or the driving under the influence gone down?
No.
Not to any significance. There's I thought I read, and maybe you know the number, but somewhere around 3,000 FFL holders in the state of Colorado. Now, to emphasize, that's not store owners.
Right.
That could be individuals that have an FFL within their possession that they buy, sell, and trade. Maybe they collect, maybe they transfer, maybe they do gunsmithing, maybe they do a variety of different things that require an FFL. But when you have 3,000 regulated individuals, and I will use this comparison because of my background and my livelihood. I am a licensed pesticide applicator. Mm-hmm. There's roughly 3,000 licensed pesticide applicators in the world, or in Colorado, in our world. But the gripers and complainers about the pesticide application want to restrict us more and more and more and more, but they don't do anything about going to Big R or Tractor Supply or Murdoch's to buy the exact same stuff that we utilize under a licensing, accountability, continuing education credit perspective. Mm-hmm. But they're not going to do anything to the person that's going out there and broadcasting it like fertilizer and then indiscriminately using it, not to the label. The label is the law.
Right.
Just like on the gun side of it. You follow the laws, rules, and regulations. The hypocrisy of our legislators and the people that want to stop a lot of different things, they don't do the comparisons like what we're doing because they're solid on one specific thing. Stop the pesticides, stop the rodenticides, stop the herbicides. Then you got other people, stop the alcoholism, stop the drug use. None of that has anything to do with the end result, just like on the gun side of it.
On the gun side, too, is you get into like just party line stuff, right? For the most part. It seems
what raises funds and pays the bills.
Yeah, it seems like recently, like nobody really honestly wants to come to the table and talk. They want to put some stuff out there that they feel like is doing good. But I think if you look at the broader United States and look at some of the gun laws that have been put in place that are currently being put in place here, hasn't changed anything in those places.
No.
I mean, it was pretty apparent on 003 when an unnamed person said, I'd love to come to the table and talk to you about doing a bill on regulating handguns. Mm-hmm. And it's like, see, it's not one thing, right? It's death by 1,000 cuts.
People that don't fully comprehend this, or maybe that listen to this for the first time as far as getting into this conversation about legislation, Senate Bill 003 is the detachable magazine supposed assault weapons ban, which it's not. Give us a synopsis of that from a dealer's perspective of what you're concerned with on Senate Bill 003 and how that would affect not only your business, but the hypocrisy of that as far as being able to address what they're wanting to address from a dealer's perspective.
I think it kind of goes back to that kind of stat, right? So less than 1% of the crimes being committed in regards to legal purchases from FFLs. They're talking about essentially detachable magazines, gas-operated rifles, pistols, shotguns, and making them, I'm going to call it what it is. It's a buy back your rights scheme. Mm-hmm. Personally, is what I see it as.
Because they've got almost 60 amendments to it now.
Yeah,
that are so convoluted. You just look and go, how did Colorado Parks and Wildlife get drug into this from an implementation standpoint when there's no money there, and then creating this smoke and mirrors deal that like this is going to make something better because you can still go back to your point. You're essentially buying your rights back.
Yeah. And it's crazy because there's certain firearms that they've put on a list that qualify as they don't qualify for the bill that are going to be legal to buy. And then there's other firearms that are the dangerous ones that you can buy back your rights if you really want one. The thing that I look at in the bill is they've cut it, mashed it up, make it look pretty. To me, it looks like an invasion of Tabor.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like Colorado Parks and Wildlife is going to be the 100% bearer of the brunt of it, right? In the money side,
and to that point, it's going to be classes.
Yep, there's Colorado Parks and Wildlife will be roped in regards to safety classes, but there also could be a third party in regards to who the trainers are, and we haven't figured out the curriculum or the website. The sheriffs were roped back into it, who adamantly said that they don't want this.
Mm-hmm. After the testimony and the hearing, pretty much admonished, belittled, and shamed the sheriffs in a very, very infantile and confrontational manner.
I thought it was sad, to be honest with you.
It showed the lack of professionalism from certain committee members in different committees.
Absolutely. And the thing that I look at, we all have to hold a certain professionalism in this industry, in life, right? When you're laughing, when people are from all different walks of life testifying, that's inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
That's inappropriate. Let's be honest. Like that.
It shows a lack of professionalism and caring for the individuals, not only that took the time out, but that will be adversely affected, that provide no benefit to those individuals on this.
None.
And I think that it shows. I think that it shows the hypocrisy of what we've actually become as far as a voting population to get people in there to represent the public. And as I was told during one piece of legislation this year on 1258, Mr. Gates, we are legislators and we legislate and we create legislation and we create amendments to legislation and we everything that we do is legislation. We do legislation. Okay, well but that bill failed 10-3, 1258 did. But there also comes a time when, do you really need legislation to turn around and circumvent legislation and to modify legislation and to adapt legislation just because you have legislation? And I think those statements, sometimes things need to be addressed.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about legislation about rights, about constitutional rights, and how you're going to impose legislation that alters somebody's rights to be able to turn around and adhere to the United States Constitution, I don't know if that's challengeable, but I think it's absolutely asinine.
There was a senator that referenced the Second Amendment to a driver's license. How is that a thing? How is that?
Well, didn't you read the Constitution that George Washington and those guys, they turned around and put driver's license on there because you couldn't have a horse and buggy at the time or something?
I just look at that and I go, wait a second.
Stupid.
It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, common sense is common sense, right? Let's look at it with common sense and say, hey, these are rights. These are the rights of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And they just trample on them. And I feel like in my position and why I moved here, the most recent few years has been nothing but an all-out assault on rural Colorado. It's not to marginalize, the Front Range or, the metropolitan areas, because those people are getting stomped on too.
Mm-hmm.
But you have the rancher that goes to our shop and he drives 2 hours to pick something up.
Mm-hmm.
Now he finds out he's got to come back whenever he can find time in his day
mm-hmm.
to come back to the shop to pick up his firearm that he legally purchased and that he passed a background check for and that the government has allowed him to buy,
mm-hmm.
right? Nobody's against background checks or anything like that, right? For the most part, everybody's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, we can do a background check. That's fine.
No big deal.
It's all right.
I don't have a bad history.
Yeah. Everybody understands that. But now to say like, oh no, wait, you now have to go over to CPW, get your approval letter.
After your class.
And then go to the sheriff and get your, we're not going to call it concealed carry license, a
like
safety card.
Possession card or whatever the hell it might be.
Everybody's kind of referencing it as the Colorado firearms owner identification card or something like that.
So you need a concealed carry card, and then you'll need the ownership card, and then you'll have to have another card to be able to go purchase ammunition if you're between 18 and 21.
Yeah.
To buy, all of these things that continually build up. People have more cards in their wallets than what they do actual money or other cards in their wallets.
And the best part is who's standing up the website? Mm-hmm. How are these three people going to talk? How do we know that you're going to be able to? Did you pass your class? How do we know you passed your class? Mm-hmm. This is all in the midst of, what are we, two weeks away from tag applications?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So you got an agency that now is doing all that and this.
If you want to support a company that supported the efforts to defeat Proposition 127, then you need to support Davis Tent. Davis Tent has provided quality canvas goods for outdoorsmen for the last 50 plus years. For more information, go to davistent.com. If you want to support another business that was instrumental in helping us defeat Proposition 127, check out Salida Gunshop. Salida Gunshop in Salida, Colorado provides quality products, expertise, and knowledge from individuals that actually do what they sell. Go to salidagunshop.com. Listen to the advice of Cameron Haynes and support companies that are supporting your cause and your efforts. Minturn Anglers is one of those companies. Minturn Anglers provides product and fishing excursions in Colorado and are second to none. For more information, go to minturnanglers.com. We're going to keep talking about 003 for a little bit, but we're going to incorporate 1133, which is retail sales. House Bill 251133, retail sales between 18 and 21 years old.
Yeah.
That goes on the backside of, what did we decide? It was last year, or was it 23? 23, where you had to be 21 years old to purchase a firearm, but they forgot to take the ammunition off of it. Mm-hmm. Now there's amendments that are being proposed about the hunting side of it, that this would restrict. So anybody that's listening, you can start hunting big game when you're 12 years old.
Yep.
You can't hunt by yourself until you're 16 unless you have a mentor with you that's 18 or older.
Right.
But anyone between 18 and 21 can't purchase a gun, and up until recently, unless this doesn't pass, won't be able to purchase ammunition to go hunting with a gun that they had to turn around and wait on to acquire. I look at things, how the hell is anybody supposed to know any of this? How do you enact something? Now, granted, from a federal license holder's perspective, you will know.
Oh yeah, I could use better words, but I'm going to use these. We are bearing the burden of educating people as they come into the store, right? More recently, someone came into the shop who was under 21 and wanted to touch firearms. And look for their new rifle. That person had to be educated in regards to the recent changing of the law, and that their parent or guardian had to initiate that. And then we look like the bad people. But really what we're just trying to do is follow the law, educate people, and there's no follow through on it's like they sign a bill and done.
Rubber stamp it.
That's
Sean, go back to 1133, please. So, as you saw, I think Senator Mullica pulled his name off of this one. And it specifically says on there, the bill includes exemptions for sales to persons who are 18 to 20 years of age at shooting ranges, who are members of the military, and veterans who have a hunter education certification, who are protected by a protection order, or who were born on or before January 28th of 2007, and for sales of ammunition that is not rimfire ammunition. Unlawful sale of ammunition by violating either requirement is a civil infraction, except that a second or subsequent violation is a Class 1 misdemeanor. The requirements of the sale of firearms ammunition, you would have to have all your ammunition in a locked case, or so specifically somebody there that is going to monitor all that ammunition to where somebody can't go get it off the shelf and bring it up to the counter themselves, correct?
Correct. And the big thing with that is how our shop is laid out, just in general. We're not a huge firearms retailer store where our store was designed that way, right? We're a pretty small shop.
So does all the stuff behind your counter fall into this?
It does, and we'll have to move some other ammo into a different room to make that legal. I think the big thing that you want to talk about in regards to 1133 is that second paragraph there.
The bill requires a person shipping ammunition to give written notice to the ammunition deliverer that the package contains ammunition and prohibits labeling the outside of the package in a manner that indicates that the package contains ammunition.
So that is absolutely 100% against the law. You have to, when shipping, you have to provide that it is a hazmat item and ammunition, and there is a label that goes on there for ammo to notify your third-party shipper, UPS, FedEx, whomever, that is what is contained inside that shipment. You cannot not put that on there.
So they're forcing you to violate the federal side of things.
Yes. And that's the problem with Colorado right now.
Sean's over there shaking his head going, can we talk about wildlife services or anything anymore? It's like
the big thing with Colorado is the lack of being able to communicate with the federal side, right? We've done it forever. ATF's done a good job, right? They find who's doing the illegal stuff, and then they shut them down. We're not those people. We're just, I don't know, a bunch of guys that like guns and shoot ammo, and Colorado looks at us like we're the redheaded stepchild, and they're going to make sure we go away. So
we can draw a line between all of these numbers over the last multiple years. Look up 24-13-53.
There's a lot of these. I got a lot of tabs open over here for you.
Yeah. So that's that one there. Firearms dealer requirements and permit. Okay.
Yeah.
So you are licensed, as am I, but not as a store, not as an open business. You are licensed by the federal government through the Alcohol, Tobaccos, and Firearms.
Yep.
And you have to supply documentation. And that's where all your gun checks go through on the state side, CBI, as we mentioned, and then to the federal side on the 4473 with NCIS, correct? NICS.
So, yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Well,
and so you do that.
Yep.
But now, taking effect as of when, that you have to have the state permit.
July 1.
And all the hoops and hurdles have been worked on that, and you guys are all... It's all good and go, and there's no problems, and it's easy peasy.
I would say it's quite the opposite, actually. Unfortunately, this requirement has been more than a headache. The money side, it's a $400 permit. You have to apply. What this has done is created this animosity between the state and all the FFLs, right? So you said there's 3,000 FFLs.
Yep.
Our guesstimate is that will not be the case when this goes into effect. Because a lot of people are going to drop their federal license. A lot of those people being like rural gunsmiths, small home-based FFLs, people that, they just kind of like did it as a hobby or whatnot. They don't want to deal with the state. Which is interesting, kind of coming off of the last administration of zero tolerance with the Biden administration, which we went through an audit during that time. We were fine. I think our local ATF people are great. They've always been fair with us. And if we have an issue, we reach out to them. Where this comes into play is Colorado hasn't really opened up the lines of communication in regards to how the bill was written, what's going to be in statute, and now they've gone to emergency operating rules, because we've had multiple Zoom meetings with the Firearms Dealer Division, which was
recently created.
Which was recently created after this bill. And why does that matter? So they are not people from the firearms industry, right? It's people from alcohol and tobacco in Colorado. So they understand the alcohol and tobacco side, right? The education side, that type of thing. Whereas like we've always operated on, the feds say we need a response in 30 days. The response has to go in 30 days.
Right.
Now there's this like discussion, and I'm kind of all over the place on this, but this is like kind of like how these meetings have been. They're all over the place in regards to, well, if you have a violation, then it's possibly get back to us in 30 days, or we'll get back to you in 7 business days. And then it just changes. So now it's like you have to abide by these folks who now have access to everything in our inventory, our 4473s, if they want to look at those. They're telling us that you must put in or ask the question, which I thought was interesting, what somebody's occupation is. So this is a federal form, right? That is on the side of the ATF. That's their form. Now Colorado wants us to put or ask somebody what their occupation is.
So you have two forms to fill that up.
No, you have one form. So then in the notes section of the 4473, you would put somebody's occupation if they decide to divulge that information, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. None. Why? Why do you need to put somebody's occupation on them?
And just to where it says that the act requires a firearms dealer beginning July 1st of 2025 to obtain a state firearms dealer state permit in order to engage in the business of dealing firearms other than destructive devices in Colorado. Right. Engaging in the business of dealing in firearms other than destructive devices without a permit is an unclassified felony punishable by a fine of up to $250,000.
Correct.
In order to be issued a state permit, the dealer must hold a federal firearms license, not have had a federal, state, or local license to deal with firearms or ammunition revoked, suspended, or denied within the prior 3 years, and not have violated any state or federal law concerning the possession, purchase, or sale of firearms in the 3 years before applying for the state permit. The Department of Revenue, here in reference as the department, is responsible for issuing the state permits, and the fee for issuing the permit is $400, which may be adjusted annually by the department. A state permit is valid for 3 years. So,
yeah.
But the kicker is, I mean, I'm just looking at this from a firearms dealer, but a concerned person, that you can't do it, and they won't give you a state permit if you've had one revoked, suspended, or denied within the prior 3 years. Well, you wouldn't have a federal permit then.
Yeah, exactly. The ability for them to double the work is amazing.
Yeah.
The The big thing is that in reading through all of it, all the rules, all the stuff, all the meetings that we've been in, they're going to tell you how to run your business and what they're going to charge you for it.
Let me finish this paragraph. The department, subject to available appropriations, is required to conduct an on-site inspection of a random selection of 10% of the state permit holders each year, and additionally may conduct periodic unannounced dealer inspections.
Right.
So now we have the Gestapo running around, turning around and saying, we just show up, you guys are getting ready to close, but we want to see your books. We want to look at your storage. We want to look at all your offenses that you're not complying with, but we didn't give you any notice on this.
The weird thing I would say about it is that when you talk about that stuff is that this doesn't affect anything that's currently happening in Colorado, right?
This affects the law-abiding
Yeah.
citizen, the law-abiding business owner,
Yep.
the law-abiding facilitator
Yep.
of a legally acquired product that one can get as their right, a constitutional right.
Yep.
Now, a lot of people have seen things about this sort of stuff in the Denver Post or on social media or whatever. But in totality, when you start looking at the way this stuff is busted down, you go into, and we're covering a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
But 24-1349, which became Proposition KK last year,
Yeah.
which is a 6.5% excise tax on top of the ammunition that the voters voted on because it was a referred measure from the General Assembly.
The thing that you have to look at there is that it's ammo, it's primers, it's brass, it's projectiles,
Powder.
it's powder, it's firearms, it's firearm precursor parts. This wasn't, and these are kind of wrapped, they're all wrapped together, right? There's the firearms dealer program. Now there's the Colorado tax revenue. They're involved in it, which are all wrapped into CBI. So, right, they're all linked. So if you don't do X, we're shutting off Y, right? Your ability to do background checks will be cut off if you do not follow our rules, regulations. Sure, fine, okay, we understand. It wasn't until recently that the Revenue Service put out what actually is going to be taxed. This has just recently happened. We are a couple weeks away from this going into effect. So now...
Is it April 1st?
Yep, April 1st.
On the 6.5%.
6.5%. 6.5% on top of your local sales tax, county tax, all that. It's I mean, people refer to it as the sin tax, right? Tobacco.
And that money's going to go to, that's going to be used to fund crime victim services programs, mental and behavioral health programs for children and veterans, and school security and safety programs.
I'd be curious when this goes into effect. I would love to see the numbers 2 years later, where that money's gone, who it's helped. We don't have a problem supporting these people, but we already have programs in place for all of this.
Yes.
Where's all that money going? I'm just curious. And it's unfortunate because what I would say is we have a lot of people who are on fixed incomes, right? Older folks love to shoot. That's what they do. That's literally their life.
Some play golf, some bowl, some go out and shoot.
Some shoot. And honestly, I know one of my favorite older guys that comes to the shop. That's what he does. His daily routine is reload, go to the range, shoot, come to the gun shop. What does that do? It eases his mind. He gets his social interaction at the range and at the gun shop and goes home and does it all again. And this type of thing is going to do nothing but affect him. That's the person who it affects.
So let me give a hypothetical situation. Based upon if 1133 passes, if you got the gun show component that passes, which doesn't really affect you, but it eventually affect you
Yeah.
in some capacity
Absolutely.
just because of the BS that goes along with it. If you look at the previous legislation that we've had, if you look at the state permits, you look at the excise taxes, you look at 168 and 169 from 2023, you look at all this stuff combined, then you throw in 003 on top of this.
Yeah.
Let's say a guy came in, and I know this is a surprise question.
Yeah.
A guy came in there to buy $1,000 worth of firearm product in a combination of a gun that fell into the category of 003 and ammunition and scopes and whatever the hell else he wanted to buy. Just say he spent $1,000, but it did include a gun that went into that 003. How much more is that $1,000 purchase in 2023 versus what it'll be in latter part of 2025 if all this stuff takes effect and goes into place?
To be honest with you, it's the unknown.
Because they haven't determined anything.
They don't know how much the permit is going to cost. They don't know how much the your sheriff's department is going to charge. They don't know what the classes are going to charge, right? So
then you don't know what the excise tax in totality, depending on where that comes in.
Right. And that, I mean, so what do we know? 6.5%, 1,000 was
That's
60 bucks.
$65.
65 bucks.
Yep, that's just on that one deal.
That's 65 bucks. That's what we know at this
Yeah.
moment in time.
But you know there's going to be a permit fee.
You know there's going to be a permit fee.
And if let's say you don't buy a rifle or some sort of a detachable magazine deal, and you buy a pistol
Yep.
that falls into that category, now you got to go take a class for that to be able to obtain and possess that,
Or a shotgun.
which might be $50 or might be $100.
Yeah, who knows? It's the unknown is scary, right? The people who are going to get pushed aside is, I mean, let's reference skiing, right? Number one thing in Colorado that brings vacationers, right? Hunting, I think, is number two.
Yep.
What's to say that this doesn't stop a lot of people from coming out here hunting because they don't want to support a state that's okay with violating people's rights?
That's an interesting component, because when people say, "Oh, they'll just pay it," well, maybe they won't. But if they're out-of-staters, if you look online, and any legislator that could potentially listen to this podcast or listen to this message, if you look online, the amount of people are saying, "Screw you! I'm not going to Colorado. I will go somewhere else." Now, we don't know the proof in the pudding on that. But applications for non-resident deer and elk license or sheep license or whatever are due April 1st. We'll be able to tell about May of how many people actually withheld their money or didn't increase the funds to be able to put in. Because what CPW is doing from a variety of different perspectives has to do with finances. This has to do with restrictions or prohibitions and an increase in finance allocations for individuals. We might see a significant dip. And if you see a significant dip, now you're looking at Pittman Robertson funds that come into the agency. And then you look at this, what it hasn't been defined, but we would classify as diversion of funds because of Pittman Robertson, because now they're going to get money from parks that they have to pay back for programs that are mandated that might come from the sheriff's department or the CPW. All of these things that we're talking about, stuff that they decided and voted on last year versus this year, they still don't have any definitive numbers on anything.
No. And the thing that I look at is I moved to Colorado for hunting, right? I moved here for this stuff. And I'm looking at this in all of it, right? The gun stuff, the hunting stuff, the wolf stuff, the 127 stuff. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, holy cow, where are we going to be in 10 years? What is going to be, where is Colorado going to be in 10 years? It worries me. It worries me that they're going to move money to make something stand up. And you're right. The online folks right now, currently speaking, if you look at any of the forums, any of your Facebook posts, that type of stuff, a lot of out-of-staters are like, good luck.
Yeah.
I'm not coming.
Well, I mean, I don't know how many people are willing to follow through with that, but as an individual, California and New York do not care about what I do.
No.
But my wife and I decided we'll never spend $1 in California. We'll never spend a dime in New York. I have no desire to go to either one of those locations. That's not that big of a deal to either one of those states.
Right.
But if you get 1 million people to decide to do something not to do something that they regularly done, and there's no backfill,
Right.
other people are not willing to turn around and fill that gap. Pretty soon, those states start to see the decrease in revenue from a variety of different levels.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that. I mean, I think when we boycott something from a people perspective, are we like sheep that we're going to all do it, or are some of us going to do it and bitch about it, and the other people are going to turn around and do it on their own?
Yeah, I would say, kind of gets off a little bit of the topic, but you got new stuff coming in 28 on tags. You got the decrease in over-the-counter license for archery. I mean,
you got preference point application fees. You got all this other stuff coming in.
You got all that stuff. The big thing I would say is that we feel that.
Mm-hmm.
We feel that.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things, we feel.
Yeah.
It might be for a few months. It might be a couple months. It might be a couple customers. But over time, it's a lot of customers.
So from a individual business perspective, there's websites out there all over the place that you can buy whatever the hell you want as long as it goes to a federal firearms dealer. I want to emphasize that if you go on any one of those other sites whether it's Gunbroker or anywhere else, that product still has to be shipped to a licensed federal firearms dealer, and that the background check, which now takes 3 days, 72 hours, has to be conducted, and you can pick the gun up. It's not like they ship it to your door, like I've heard legislators talk about. Well, you just buy it on the internet. They don't ship it to your damn door.
Yeah.
So can you do something along that line to help your bottom line and ship it to some other place?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean,
and you probably do some of that now.
Yeah. We have a website, salidagunshop.com or shop salidagunshop.com, and people can visit there and know that we support hunters, and we're supporting all the, movements and trying to be involved as much as possible. We're in a transition phase of getting our website to top tier, but I think right now it's working pretty well. You can see everything that we have in stock, and if you don't see it there, you can always give us a call.
Because you go through a lot of product.
Yeah, we go through quite a bit of product. As was mentioned by our ATF visit, we're not considered a small rural gun shop. We're considered a box store.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? Well, it's a small box compared to some of the big places.
Yeah, it's a small box with a lot of goodies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an endless bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, I said this on a call that I had the other day. I know of in excess of a dozen individual owners, FFL holders, that have sold out, that are in the process of selling out, moving out of state, moving to Wyoming, moving to Montana, moving to Idaho, to continue the rest of their lives and not have to deal with the lunacy that has been given to them from a gun shop owner perspective. They can't conduct business like what they have for the last 15 or 20 years. And I think that's probably the ultimate goal.
It is
to degrade and erode licensed stores who are abiding by the law. And as we talked about during some of this previous legislation discussion, if they're in violation, they're shut down anyway.
Yeah. It's I would say it's the bigger plan is
to get rid of it.
You get rid of it, you get rid of the hunting, and then everybody just falls in line.
And that's an eventual attempted accomplishment, probably not in the rest of my lifetime.
Right.
But it might be in yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might be in Sean's. It definitely will, I think, in your kids. I think that they know that they're not going to be able to accomplish these sorts of things in one administration, or maybe not even one generation. But if you look at the historical side of things,
gosh,
holy crap!
It's There's a greater plan.
I mean, go back, and I'm 61 years old. I used to work on guns in school.
Yeah.
I used to build cannons and muzzleloaders in school. I used to have guns in the car in school. I started the shotgun class or the shotgun club, the trap shooting club, in school.
Yeah.
We didn't have killings. We didn't have mass murders. We didn't have any nefarious actions. We didn't have any thefts or assaults with weapons at that point in time. And it wasn't a small school. It wasn't a giant school, but every kid that I knew that any other school did the same thing. Yeah. They went hunting in the morning. They were checking traps. They went trap shooting in the afternoon. It was common practice. Remember the days, and you're younger than I, but remember the days when there was a 30-30 and a 243 in the back window of the damn pickup.
That literally, I had this conversation 2 days ago with one of our good customers, and he was talking to me about the same stuff. He would go elk hunting, and he had a cutoff time. Mm-hmm. He had a cutoff time. He'd throw his rifle in the back of his truck and go to school, and then in the evening, he'd go back up and do it again. Mm-hmm. And he literally said, yeah, we'd get into fights. Yeah, nobody, not one person ever thought.
I remember as a kid where bunches of kids came from one school to fight bunches of kids from another school, and nobody brought guns.
No.
And nobody brought knives. And they went out there and they beat the crap out of each other, and the football coaches sometimes would let them finish it, and they would turn around and go on their way.
Right.
And they would end up at some school function a week or 2 weeks later because this school rivalry. But it wasn't this mentality that firearms were part of this is a cultural deal.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to do with an individual thing.
I would say that that's the biggest touch point of this whole thing. Culturally, something has changed. I don't know the answer. I don't believe that anybody in the legislature who is voting for this thinks that they aren't doing something good. But in reality, it's a cultural issue, and it's not a firearms issue, right? I think personally, we're not here to sell guns to people that shouldn't have guns. That's not what we're here for, right? I don't think this is going to do anything.
No. I think 5 years from now, you're going to be looking at the same thing. They're going to put more blame onto law-abiding, gun-toting individuals, whether they have a concealed carry permit, whether they open carry, whether they just like to shoot, or they just like to hunt, or they just like to collect, or they want to have something for self-defense. They are going to bastardize and marginalize every single thing because they're going to keep pointing toward, we need to do this. We need to do that. We have to turn around and move this direction. Even though all the stuff that they did preceding, didn't have anything to do with any of it.
We're all about stats, data, all this stuff, and yet nobody listens to it.
No.
Nobody listens to it.
Not unless it benefits them from, well, did you see how many people died from firearms?
Well, yeah.
Did you see how many people weren't legally allowed to have those firearms, or how they didn't legally acquire those firearms?
They put a bill in place to attack firearms, and then they put another bill in place that literally showed a firearm statistic of what firearms are used for in Colorado in regards to suicide numbers. And it's crazy. I mean, honestly, suicide has affected me personally, friends, people I've worked with, that type of stuff. This does nothing for that.
No.
The 72-hour wait does nothing for that.
The ammunition delay or an age does nothing for this. The 6.5% excise tax is not going to fix what it said it was going to fix or what it was going to address.
I think if anybody who works in the medical industry, the healthcare industry, I should say, in rural Colorado knows 100% that rural Colorado is affected the most by suicide and is the worst or most underserved population when it comes to mental health care. Mm-hmm. And I would bet that these dollars don't change a thing.
And they're not going to go that direction.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to.
I don't think that with the numbers that are given on fiscal notes and the way that those things have been convoluted on so many different pieces of legislation, the fiscal notes don't come anywhere close to what they're alluding to.
So, in the recent discussion or the recent
on 003,
on 003, they put an estimate out there that they think 50,000 people will apply for this safety class card
for the detachable magazine semi-automatic.
So to buy those, right? I think somebody's grossly underestimating the power of the people, or the opposite of that is maybe nobody does, right? I mean, from a firearms retailer, we're going to look at it like, okay, so we have these firearms that you have to go through all these different hoops. So what are we going to carry as a retailer that meets the needs of the people? That's a tough one.
So you have gun one that requires all of these hoops and hurdles, test, fees, buyback your rights.
Yeah.
You got gun two that doesn't do all of that, but provides a similar benefit to what the original gun one would do.
Yep.
And it doesn't have any of the strings attached to be able to do it. I think you're exactly right that people are going to figure out a way to manipulate this. And you know, and not that you can be a prophet and look in a crystal ball, but when would that take effect?
September 1.
Okay, so how many of those guns are going to be sold between the passage and enactment?
Everybody's talked about it since the Obama era, and you know, unfortunately for the Democrats, who are probably the greatest firearm sellers in the United States, you know, I don't know. Honestly, we've started to see an increase in those firearm purchases. You know, obviously all legally. Right?
Yeah, because the possession side of it, once you have it, you're good.
The other part to this too is that this is going to create a black market like never seen before. You know, I think they don't look at that. I don't think they care. I think people are going to do illegal stuff if they want to do illegal stuff.
They've made it easy enough to comply with the laws now that we've had to where people understand that you have to have a background check. Yeah. I mean, does that mean that Bob isn't selling something to his son or his uncle or whatever? No, maybe that's still happening, but not to the level that they've alluded to.
And that's also legal, right? Up lineage, down lineage, you're good.
Yeah. You know, and so
but whether it's the neighbor,
right, the guy across the street, the mailman, or whatever the heck you want to turn around and do. But we're in uncharted territory that I, particularly, as a federal firearms dealer, as a sportsman, as a shooter, as a self-protection-minded individual, I won't buy any new guns that fall into those requirements or specifications. I already have what I need, and personally, and I know that I'm speaking on behalf of maybe the 50,000 or maybe it's 500,000. Figure out how to buy it before you need it, before you have to comply with all the crap that they're turning around and imposing, and just say, this is what it is. I can do that with suppressors. I can do that with any form of these other weapons that are out there. I'm not encouraging people to go break the law.
No.
But if I knew that I'll give a prime example. Back in 2018, I bought a diesel Kubota tractor.
Yeah.
They said in 2019, you were going to have this DEF fluid coming into it. We have all these sitting on the lot. We can sell you this one that doesn't have all that stuff, or we can sell you that one that's got all the stuff, and it costs $5,000 more. I said, well, give me this one. Give me the one that I don't have to have that stuff for.
Right.
And I'm the one that now they've come to me and they said, do you want to sell your tractor? Because nobody wants the one with the DEF. So we'll buy this one off of you and give you a brand new one. I'm like, I didn't want the DEF to start with. I think that's going to be the similar thing on these firearms, because what I have a real problem with, and I hate to just talk about the firearm industry but this affects sportsmen. It affects rights. It affects the practical issues of government influence and overreach. I don't want somebody making a law on something that says this has not yet been determined. We haven't created this yet, but by God, we're going to turn around and make a law that you can't do this because you didn't go through the hoops, hurdles, requirements, state permits, licensing, schooling, fees. How the hell can you turn around and enact legislation when none of it was created during the legislation?
There's so much there. There's so much there. The other part to it too is like a right delayed is a right denied.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say that they're going to be able to stand this thing up by September 1 and people aren't going to be waiting 8 months to be able to get their class, their whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like...
And for those people that don't know, try to get a hunter education class going right now.
120-day backlog?
Yeah. On hunter education with no background check and no additional classes and no restrictions or prohibitions. This is just a requirement if you want to get a hunting license, but there's a lot of people out there that do it for hunter safety just for gun safety.
Yes,
period.
Absolutely. The other part too that it was touched on in the bill is if you do bring one of these firearms in to be worked on and you get it to a gunsmith and it gets checked in to be worked on, the gunsmith then has to make sure that they're delivering it back to a person that meets the requirements.
Which means if you want your gun back, you have to go through the class and pay the fee.
Do a background check.
To get your firearm back.
And get the, yeah. So I look at it and I go, there's, like currently, right now, somebody comes in, they check their firearm and their ID and the possession of it says they're the owner and they're legally able to have it, right? That's how it stands federally. So we have a slip, they bring the slip back, they're the rightful owner, we deliver it back to them. Now that could change to where, do you have your safety card?
So if they don't have all this stuff formulated and you take your gun in, and let's just say hypothetically this takes effect, if this passes, it takes effect on September 1st. Mm-hmm. Somebody brings their gun in on August 15th before hunting season to get it done.
Yep.
And this thing takes effect, but they haven't actually facilitated all of this component of this. Now he gets the gun fixed. He calls the guy, but he can't turn around and get his card, his class, because it's not been created yet.
It's not been created.
Even though the law took effect.
Maybe there's a backlog. Who knows?
How big of a storage area do you have to be able to turn around and do all this stuff from 72-hour checks to all of these other components?
We never talked about that, was the amount of storage area that had to be created because of the 72-hour wait was a significant amount. Mm-hmm. It's, and then wrap that into the firearms dealer program. Are those firearms in a safe and secure area? And
because you're supposed to have to lock them up and all this stuff. Waiting for somebody to show up at your door now unannounced to be able to turn around and check all of what you're doing and what you're not doing in compliance with interpretation that hasn't been written in law yet.
And I think the biggest thing that we've seen in Colorado in the last, I would say 2 years is the smash and grabs, right? Along the Front Range. People driving stolen vehicles into firearms dealers and trying to steal
Those
firearms.
Guys weren't bitching. They weren't doing that because they didn't get a 3-day wait in an appropriate time.
They wanted guns for other reasons, which I think apply to the statistics of what Colorado's going through right now. It's an opinion, right? But these are all things that are being found by federal agents, by local police departments. There's stats that can back that up.
What's Salida Gunshop doing to engage in these conversations that you guys feel like that you're not that your message is not resonating, or maybe you're not getting a chance to turn around and voice your opinions?
Well, we've attempted to testify. Jenna's been able to get through twice. Unfortunately, Josiah and I have both been called upon and not.
They stopped testimony.
Yeah, they stopped testimony, but here nor there, we were there. We sat through all the meetings and stuff. But what we have stood up was a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, really, its purpose is to get the information out there to folks in regards to what's going on in Colorado, what's going on at the Salida Gunshop. We have quite a few videos out there. A lot of things like newer folks that are new to the firearms, like just newer to firearms, I guess you could say, is like, how do you get in? How do you show up to a gun shop with a firearm? And like you check it in for gunsmithing, or you want a new sight.
You just don't walk in with it.
Yeah, don't, please. Yeah, please.
That's not probably the safest thing to do, is turn around and walk in with a gun.
Yeah, please, watch our YouTube videos. We've explained it very well on there. Really the big thing is getting the information out there in regards to how you go through these things. These are all questions we all had at one time, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people look at our industry and it's Utah and alcohol type thing, right? It's in the back corner. It's behind the closed doors. We're welcoming. We want people to come in. We don't care what walk of life you're from. We want everybody, because it's your right. It's the right of everybody.
These are conversations. We said this with Martin Lowney before. These are conversations that could go on and on and on.
Oh, yeah.
Because the general public gets partial information from the press, whether it's out of the print or maybe it's off of social media. A lot of times social media is wrong, or it's not current, because things in the legislature change frequently. Just like we were talking about Senate Bill 003. There's almost 60 amendments to that. So if somebody says this, tomorrow that might be wrong. We just looked at Senate Bill 003 this morning that we thought was going to appropriations in the House on Friday.
Boom, through.
Yeah.
Done.
So when people listen to this on the 26th, they'll recognize that it passed appropriations 7-4.
Yep.
3 days prior to when it was supposed to go. So they took it out upon adjournment as opposed to scheduling it at 7:30. Why did they do that, you think?
Oh, this is being voted on party lines, and they want it to go through as fast and unobstructed as possible.
No testimony, no input.
If you watch the testimony and to see the amount of diversity in the firearms industry and the people testifying against this, you would have thought, oh, common sense says we're shutting this down, versus the people who are for the bill. And I'm not taking anything off their plate, off the people who are for this type of thing, who want to, stop mass shootings, want to stop gun violence. This isn't going to do it. But
none of these things that we addressed will do this.
They won't.
Combined, they won't do it.
They won't do it. I don't know how else to say it, but you can look at California. They have some of the most restrictive gun laws in the U.S. They're still cranking away.
You look at what Washington's doing. You look at what other states are doing. Look what Colorado or California has already done. I was going to say California. Look what they've already done.
Yeah.
We're starting to mirror image and duplicate and replicate what other states, what other liberally minded states have done to fix the problem, and nothing has addressed any of that, but they still keep trying to turn around and shove it down your throat.
To a T. And I mean, I'm sure you'd have more of a pulse on this, but the out-of-state money that's pouring in for all this stuff it seems to be unbelievable. The people testifying are flying in from out of state. These are not Colorado residents, or maybe they're Colorado residents of 1 year.
Yeah.
Again, not putting anything against people that have moved to Colorado and to enjoy this wonderful state. But man, unlike me that came here to assimilate, this is
It's not what you expected after 10 or 12 years.
This is the wrong way. It doesn't make sense to me, like, why we would even go down this route.
Do you see Salida Gunshop? Obviously, you're going to survive. Unless they just prohibit anybody from selling a firearm, period.
Right.
But how much more do you guys have to plan on being able to comply and then worry about your staff and then worry about your training and worry about the logistics of you being able to do what you do. And I mean, how much do you have to worry about that and take that into consideration? Because as I often speak about, and we've said it during several other podcasts, what do you want in 30 days, 90, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days? What do you want in 5 years? How do you continually plan your business strategy and model to go through those steps, looking at all this crap that takes effect on, something takes effect on April 1st, then July 1st, then September 1st, then you got something else that's being in the courts, something might be revised and might be amended. How do you prepare for any of this logistically when you have X number of employees with multiple levels of your business model?
You can't plan, unfortunately. You kind of have to roll with the punches. And right now we're getting beaten. The big thing that both my business partner and I, we both lose sleep over this stuff, which I think is what they want. But I look at it as how many families we're trying to provide a living income for in Salida, Colorado. It's not easy. I want everybody who's on our staff to be successful in life, whether that's at the Salida Gunshop or outside of the Salida Gunshop. The big thing that I see with this stuff is that are we one visit away from, oh, we didn't see that rule or we didn't see that, you didn't
interpret it appropriately.
Yeah, which is why the big thing we were talking about recently was the excise tax. It wasn't, the conversation was, it was very vague, very general. What is a precursor part? Right? Is that a light?
Sean, can you answer that? Nope.
I look at it as, is that a bag? Is that a light? Is that, is that an optic? How do we find that out?
Is it a case? Is it a safe?
Yeah. And how do we, okay, so we're supposed to collect the 6.5% on that. What if we didn't, and now they come in and do a audit, and they say, hey, why aren't you guys collecting on this? This is a violation. Now where do we sit? Now is our state license going to be
in jeopardy?
Now are we not going to be able to do background checks?
Is this the first state in the country to have a state license on top of the...
No, there's multiple others. Very much so going back to what you talked about. We're stepping in line with
the other states,
everybody else. And honestly, federally, I think if you look at the federal side, while everybody is getting pushed back on all this stuff, we're trying to hammer it home forward on stuff that's being proven that it's actually against the Second Amendment. I'm curious where this all will fit
in the courts.
And I don't know. You look at Oregon that just pushed through, I believe it was 114 that they had, and that's a state. You got to get a safety thing, this, that, and the other. Turns out it went to a certain judge. Certain judge said XYZ is the under 21-year-old bill here, right? Sat in front of the right judge gets it, says, yeah, no, this is totally in line with the Second Amendment. It's what?
Yeah.
What?
We talk about state and federal, all of this that makes it really hard to get a certain thing that I might want. Why can't I just drive to Cheyenne, which is 2 hours away, and get it up there? And to your point of it's not going to do anything. Why can't I just go get the thing that I want, a pistol with a detachable magazine, and bring it back and have it?
I think what you'll find, or at least my understanding of all this, is that when you drive around with a Colorado license plate and a Colorado driver's license and you try to do that,
they won't sell.
That's not happening.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Now, that's not to say that if you went to a gun show in Las Cruces, New Mexico, that if you went through the appropriate checks and did all the stuff, somebody there might sell you something. Or if you saw something, and I don't know about other states or what they do for, private sales,
right?
But whether it's legal or whether it's not, this is going to create a diversionary tactic for people to acquire firearms legally
100%.
And create a black market side of things to where. Oh, don't tell anybody, Joe. It's no big deal. I know a guy in Sydney that he's willing to turn around and do this because he's whatever the hell.
And that's not what their goal is. That's not what our goal is.
No.
Right?
No.
Like we don't. I want people to come to the Salida Gunshop and spend their money and have fun and have enjoyable experience, and all done legally.
It's illegal to delete a truck. Yeah. But how many people are driving deleted trucks around, and they know that if they go to sell it, they'll have to put parts back on it, or they'll have to turn around and keep it for life.
Oh, yeah.
I know most of the people that I've talked to are willing to keep it for life because they don't want the new stuff.
Yeah,
we're talking about a truck. That's not a right. Just going back to your driver's license deal. If they think that this is going to solve any issues more than what the problems that are created out of this. In 2 years from now, some of these things, and people need to understand, these are legislative issues that can be reversed, just as a statutory ballot initiative can be reversed. Proposition 114 on the Wolf deal can be reversed. Some people are attempting to try to prohibit or restrict or repeal that in some capacity.
Right.
Statutory things are different than constitutional things. Pieces of legislation, whether it's a resolution or a piece of legislation that passed, it can be reversed. But the headache and the hassle to go through to be able to do that, you're better off trying to fight it at the forefront and stop it, as opposed to turn around and saying, I need to be able to reverse this unless the courts intervene.
Yep.
And if the courts intervene, and they find this unconstitutional, and you can have case law or precedent from other locations, whether it's Colorado or New Hampshire or whatever. Those are things that I think people are hanging their hat on to say the courts will overturn this. Well, there's no guarantee of that. But in the process of that, you still have to comply with the laws, rules, and regulations to be able to do that.
And not only that, the time that it will take.
Yeah.
The time that it will take.
It's not going to happen in a month. It's not going to happen in a year.
No, the courts are slow. Mm-hmm. It just, boy, rural Colorado, wake up. You gotta do something. We gotta do something. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think recent voting, we saw some position changes, some good wins. Mm-hmm. Great win on the 127. But if we want Colorado to be Colorado, a place for everybody, we need to start voting appropriately. Mm-hmm.
We tell people all the time, Adam, people say, well, what can I do? Make sure your vote counts. I mean, people say, well, my vote doesn't count. Look at Representative Rebecca Kelty. Rebecca Kelty won by 3 votes in El Paso County.
Amazing.
Your vote counts.
It does.
And now, can you do that times 10? Could you do that times 20? I don't know, but I can tell you that the overwhelming majority of individuals that don't think that their vote counts are misguided, misinformed, or uneducated. And if we think that way, they will continue to ride whatever wave they want to ride, no matter what it is. If they want you to turn around and not eat beef, they'll get rid of slaughterhouses.
Oh, yeah.
If they want to turn around and make you not wear fur, they'll turn around and ban fur. You don't want to do firearms. You don't want to have rodeos. You don't want to turn around and hunt. You don't want to have oil and gas. You don't want to have whatever the hell it might be. Mm-hmm. If you don't help elect the right people into the right spot, look at that. 3 votes.
Amazing.
And people say their vote doesn't count. Well, it does for right there. That's 50-50. That's 20,641 to 20,638. Tell me how the hell that doesn't matter. And Rebecca Kelty was at the Colorado chapter Safari Club banquet, sitting in the front. And she actually, when this comes out, it would be a week before, but she'll be on the Legislative Sportsman's Caucus It just shows that people have to turn around and stand up, prop up what they believe in, and vote.
You have to engage.
Yes.
You have to engage. You can't just sit back. You have to engage. You got to know exactly what you said. Who's your senator? Who's your representative?
Mm-hmm. What district do you live in?
What district do you live in? Because if you don't, and you're not in contact with, who's your mayor?
Yeah. Who's your county commissioner?
Who's your county commissioner?
I got county commissioners texting me as we're sitting here doing this.
I mean, Fremont's got some good county commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely support the Second Amendment.
Oh, yeah.
The thing I would say is that something that's discussed all the time in the House, right? We want civil discourse, right? Sure, for the TV cameras,
Yeah.
right? But let's have it outside of there. Let's set up some meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk. Let's come to a maybe an honest conversation of like how to combat these things. I can't say it enough. Soft on crime, soft on drugs. We see it in our local county.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a very big county.
Mm-hmm.
You see what that creates. It creates a circle of just madness. Repetition of similar people. I worked on an ambulance for 17 years.
You got a pretty good idea.
I got a great idea of what's going on.
It's funny because I just came out of the Yukon, and James O'Farrell, who was my trapping guide up there, is an EMT, and his family works on EMT stuff, just because of small town of Tagish, Yukon territories, and he said the exact same thing. You wouldn't believe what we see, and the laws, rules, and regulations that are imposed from the Canadian province, the Canadian imperial empire up there, do not do a damn thing for the stuff that they're having to do on the ground.
No.
Just like what you're talking about. The people that are in law enforcement, the first responders, the people that have to deal with the people that are creating a lot of the concerns about what we have to do from a societal component, they're not applying a lot of the restrictions, prohibitions, or the laws, rules, and regulations to their lifestyle. But it's being imposed on us as the majority of the population.
Oh, 100%. It's interesting. A lot of these things, they span many different backgrounds, right? Some affect these people more. Some affects this subsection, these folks. For the most part, it affects everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit more over here, a little bit more over here, but I mean, drugs especially.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't affect just one subsection of people. It affects everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You're soft on the guy that delivers it to the high school. Turns out the high school has XYZ, county commissioner's kid or such and such, and then it becomes a huge problem. It affects everybody, more so in the rural communities, I would say, because everybody knows everybody.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
It's a big network.
Yeah.
So, where does Salida Gunshop fit into the next 90 days? You got 60 days worth of left of the session. By the time this airs, it'll be 50 days.
Mm-hmm.
Where does Salida Gunshop fit in for, what do you got going? What do you got going on? What are you trying to do from a public education standpoint, a business standpoint? You got special events, you got interactions you're doing with the community. What do you got going?
Yeah, we have, so if you want to know what our community events or our events calendar, it's all available on our website. We got concealed carry classes, awareness classes. We're also doing what we call Family Day, where we bring out CPW, local law enforcement, 4-H kids. It's all hosted in our parking lot. It's to get everybody together as a community.
Mm-hmm.
We're a community of people. Yeah, maybe we rally around one certain thing, but it's not a political thing, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
We're a community. We're a community of people that wants to help everybody. Time and time again, shows in our donations.
Oh, yeah.
In different things. We don't just donate to certain things. It's all about
You're
the community.
oriented to the point to where most people would be amazed at what small businesses like you do when they're capable of doing it.
I mean, we got baseball teams, we got 4-H kids, we got trap shooting kids, we got we got the wrestling kids. We donate to the local high school. You know, the amount of donations is pretty wild, but I guess really what our big focus is just community. And where are we going as a shop? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, a lot of this, where we're going to be in 60 days is kind of dependent on where the legislators go and
what
say
passes.
what passes, what doesn't pass.
If the governor signs stuff.
If the governor signs stuff, you know, I would hope that he would look at this and say, this is bad for Colorado. This is terrible for Colorado. We need to take a real look at this. You know, it's just a bad.
You could tell in your frustration in your voice about how unworthy these conversations are from a professional standpoint that deals with this on a regular level. And you know, I got to challenge the community to pay closer attention over the course of the next, you know, 60, 120, you know, 240 days or whatever, to pay attention to what's going on, because it will affect them. I don't know how many people I've run into, but they're like, what do you mean I got to get a 3-day wait?
Yeah.
You know, they just thought they'd go buy a gun because they didn't pay attention. What do you mean my gun store went out of business? Well, because they moved to Montana. What do you mean I got to do this? They don't pay attention enough until it's too late. And by then, the community doesn't engage enough to where it makes a difference at all. And then I think that they think that's when their vote doesn't matter because they waited too long.
Does matter. All of it all of this matters at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, Josiah and myself, like, you know, if we could snap our fingers and curb gun violence and suicide tomorrow, we'd love to do that.
But this isn't.
But we're realists.
Yeah.
Right. We're realists. The amount of people that testify, I just can't get over that. The amount of people. Mm-hmm. From different places in Colorado, right? I mean, like the representative from Durango, he says we're being forgotten down here in La Plata County.
Yep.
I was like, you're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
they have the power. They have the stroke of the pen, and not as a call to action, but there needs to be some sort of accountability for people that do not do things for anything other than what their personal agendas are. There's no facts, no data, no statistics, no plan of action. I mean, as I go back to who the hell creates something that is going to take effect when you don't have anything created to be able to turn around and enact it, impose it, regulate it, facilitate it, implement it. There's nothing there.
One of the most stressful things that I ever looked at was what was going on in the House bills and Senate bills. I think you pointed me onto that. Uh-huh. And you look at some of the stuff and you go, this is what they're spending time on? Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. And money.
Yeah.
And money.
Lots of money.
The states,
with a state that's $1.2 billion deficit.
How...
That shows good fiscal responsibility when 100 people can't turn around and balance a budget, and you're in upside down over your head, and you're trying to impose new things on a bunch of people that don't have anything to do with the problems that you created.
Yeah. If the Salida Gunshop was running like this state, we would have been out of business many years ago. And I think, and to say all firearms, you know, dealers, if they were run like that, you just can't operate like that. That's crazy.
Maybe if it's feasible, and Sean and I make a run later spring or summer, we make a run, and we're talking about doing some podcasts in some different locations.
Yeah.
Maybe we come down there and just maybe see your operation.
Yeah.
Give a tutorial if Sean's got the availability, and we go in there and we buy a firearm, or we have somebody buy a firearm, and just show the whole process of this after a bunch of these things potentially take effect.
Yeah.
And show the lunacy and the hypocrisy of this, and maybe try to do a podcast where we interview a few people in the store, or whatever, and as we travel around the country. What we did at ISE and what we're going to try to do at Mile High is more boots on the ground, in your face outside of a studio deal.
Yeah.
But I think that might be something that resonates down the road with the general public, because you're not sitting in a enclosed, soundproof room trying to get your point across. But you're actually in the location.
Hopefully by that time we have our podcast stood up and running and get you on there.
We'll do two of them side by side. So.
It would just be, we'll block out 12 hours.
Yeah, we'll just do that. So, anything you want to say in conclusion? What you wish for, what you want?
The big thing I wish and I hope, and I'll be right there with everybody that's in line. I want Colorado to go back to being Colorado, the Colorado that I moved to, for the certain reasons that I enjoy. And really, at the end of the day, I look at this and I say, this is not good. I left this to come here to flourish, and we are going down a path that will be California 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
So get involved, whether that's locally. Contact your representatives, contact your senators, contact your county commissioners, your mayors. Put this conversation on the table for people. I am truly worried that Colorado Parks and Wildlife is going to bear the brunt of all of this, and the conservation point or perspective, in the conservation perspective, the animals will suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the people of Colorado will suffer.
Good closing statement. For more information, go to salidagunshop.com. Deal with businesses that support the cause and the efforts of what we're trying to do for conservation, and in this case, gun rights in the state of Colorado. Salida Gunshop has been a great supporter of not only our efforts with CRWM on 127, but helping us fundraise and helping us kick the crap out of the opposition over the course of the last 17, 18 months. We appreciate your friendship, appreciate your willingness to engage, look forward to further relationship building and communication, and hopefully you can continually put up with us and let us know what we can do to try to help you guys. Absolutely, Dan. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and anything we can do to help, reach out. Good deal. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Through the Gates. For more content like this, make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe on all of our channels.